So the point I was making here was that many people, and you got to ask yourself, are you one of these? Because I can guarantee a large percentage of people make this very first mistake, and that is simply not asking for a referral. Now, bear in mind here, again, what we're talking about is directly asking for a referral. So, for example, how many of you, if you were doing a kitchen conversion for a customer and you've spent a couple of days there doing your first fix and your second fix, and the kitchen's all looking great, and the electrical elements of the work that you've done a fantastic job. How many of you afterwards actually turn to the customer in any way, shape, or form and ask the customer, who else do you know is currently having their kitchen done? Who else do you know who may benefit from what it is that I actually do? And my contention here, my belief here, is that not many of you do that, because many of you will either be working for the kitchen fitter, or you will have gotten the job from one of your leaflet ads or your magazine ads, and you're concerned and you're looking at purely that particular job. But here's the thing. Would you agree with me that when you see things happening like extensions being built, kitchens being done, lofts being converted, rewires being carried out, would you agree with me that quite often people have friends who are doing very similar things? These are the type of things that when people start doing them, when groups of friends start doing these things, when one person starts to say, oh, you know what, I think we'll break into the loft and we'll create an extra room for one of the kids or whatever, then the other friends start thinking, oh, crikey, you know what, we could do this. And if it's not a loft conversion, they'll be thinking about extending a room or splitting a room or converting the garage or whatever. But you do find, and you probably find it yourself in your own groups of friends, that when situations like this happen, they happen in groups, that one person spurs on the idea and then somebody else in the group decides that they're going to do it. And it may not be immediately, it might not be straight away, but at some point the others will go, oh, you know what, Mick and Jane converted the garage. I wonder if we could do something similar. They converted it into a bedroom. Maybe we could convert it into an office. Or maybe we could break into the loft, or maybe we should put on a conservatory, or maybe we should put on a kitchen at the back. Whatever it is, these things happen by not peer pressure, I guess, but by peer influence, where friends, colleagues working together, they're talking about these things, and it just spurs on an idea, and the idea takes seed, and then over a period of time you find all of these people in the same circle are doing similar kind of stuff in their homes. And how many of us actually take advantage of that as far as a marketing strategy? Not too many. And yet here we are with another free marketing strategy. So not only does this fit in well with the whole idea of your ideal customer, your idea of word of mouth marketing, but it's also another free strategy that you can put to use that many of us actually neglect because we simply do not ask. And again, if you are good at what you do, which is the big thing that most people say when they're talking about word of mouth marketing, then you've got to realize that by asking the customer if they know somebody who is doing similar work, if they know somebody who they would be happy to recommend you to, then you're doing them a favor also, because they're going to get a good electrician without having to go through all the turmoil and pain of checking yellow pages, going with Trusted Trader, Checker Trader, worrying about what electrician that the builder brings in. Because if they know that, Sarah and Mark have had a good electrician and he's done a great job and he was reasonably priced and he did what he said he was going to do, then surely it's a good idea for them to use that same electrician that their friends has used. So asking is doing them a favor as well, in the sense that you're actually going to benefit them by providing them with a good service. The next mistake that people often make is that they go down this route, and you've probably, well, hopefully you haven't been there yourself, but you've probably heard of people saying this, that when work runs out, they open up the diary and they start going back through all the people that they worked with. And that's desperation. That's, their diary's drying out. They're not generating any work. Their marketing's not developing any work for them. They're not using a strategy. So all they're actually doing is going out and trying to get work, but in a desperate state, in a mode, a mindset of shit, the work is drying up. I've got to get something. And this primarily happens, as I said, when work starts drying up, but it primarily happens when you go back to all these builders that you used to work for, right? And you go back and you say, any work on, anything you got going at the moment. The diary's empty. I'm doing the feast and famine thing at the moment. And I'm sure some of you, actually just type into the box if any of you have been in a situation like that. Because, I know many people do get to that point. And they've run out of money for marketing, so they pick up the phone and they start asking people, got anything on, got anything going, anything going on. Whereas if you are prepared, if you plan, and we're going to talk about planning in a few minutes, then you can avoid this. But the key idea is to avoid sounding desperate, because when you're in a desperate mindset, it comes across as desperate. And then people are less inclined to actually they're less inclined to introduce you to people, because they start to worry about what's going to happen if he's that far down, if he's that desperate for work, what's going to happen. So you should never try and appear or never look like you are actually desperate for the work. Focus on how you deliver the work to the current customer, and build into the work that you're doing, build into the expectations, like we do with testimonials. Set the expectation at the beginning of every single project. If I do a really good job for you, like we do with testimonials, if I do a really good job for you, would you be happy to refer me to your friends and colleagues? You're not asking them to do anything that is, you're not saying, oh, just refer me to your friends and colleagues. If I do a really great job for you, would you be happy to refer me to your friends and colleagues? And again, at the end of the project, at the end of the job, you check in with them and you ask the question, are you happy with everything? Have we met your expectations? Have we exceeded your expectations? And then, you can, at that point, you can slip in. So who else do you know? Do you know anybody else carrying out work like this that you could introduce me to? Do you know anybody else who could use these services? And it's a good idea to do that, because in the moment, at that time, when they're happy with your service, I'm jumping ahead of myself slightly here. Let's come back to that in a second. Right, so that's the next mistake, looking too desperate. The other thing is moving far too fast, asking for referrals. It is about getting the timing right. The individual has to know that they're referring a decent person. Very much the same as you would not walk into a house and refer a plumber who you had just met today at a networking meeting. You have to build up a relationship with that plumber and get used to it. Sorry for all the plumbers out there, but you have to build up a relationship with that tradesman, plumber, decorator, whatever it might be, before you're prepared to actually refer or, to pass that person on to your customers. Why? Because you're concerned that they may not do as good a job as you would like for the customer that you're introducing them to. And what's that all about? The reason for that is because it's your reputation. If you recommend somebody and they do a shit job, they do a crap job, then that leaves you looking bad as well. And your customers will be thinking exactly the same thing. They'll be thinking, if I refer this guy on and I don't know what he's about, I don't know what he's capable of, if I just refer him on and he's actually shit, and then he does a shit job for me and he does a shit job for them, then I'm going to look shit. So timing is important. So it's, don't ask too fast. It's great to pre-qualify, like I said at the beginning, set the expectation. If I do a great job, would you be happy to refer me? Would you be happy to introduce me to other people who you know, friends, colleagues, family? So you set the expectation. But then don't ask for the referral until the customer knows who you are, how you perform, what you are all about. Because then they're going to be more comfortable with referring you on. If you ask for the referral too early, before the project is finished, before they said that they're happy with the project, they're less likely to refer you on because they don't feel comfortable about it. And by the way, there is a philosophy within marketing and sales that talks about yes sets and no sets. Okay. When you get a yes from a customer, it's much easier to get more yeses from that customer. I'm going off on a slight tangent here, but the very same is true with no's. When you get a no from a customer, it's much easier for the customer to repeat the no. Okay, so for example, if you ask too early and the customer doesn't feel comfortable with things and they say no, then later when you ask, it's easier for them to say no again than it is for them to say yes. And you may by that stage already have proved yourself, but the first no is the first of a no set, okay? Which basically means it's easier for me. If I've already said no, then I'm less likely to go back on what I've said previously. Whereas if I've said yes previously, so in other words, the difference between can you recommend me to somebody, right? Can you recommend me to somebody who uses, who's doing some building work at the moment, or who's having a kitchen converted at the moment, or can you recommend me to one of your friends? No. I can't think of anybody at the moment. Or no, there's nobody that's doing that kind of work. Or no, in my head, I'm not comfortable because I don't know what you're all about. I've said that no. Okay. Now later on, you've completed the work. You've gone and you've been that they're happy with what you've done, and now you go back and you say, "Can you think of anybody?" It's easy for them to just say, "No, I can't." Whereas, let's go for a yes set. Whereas with a yes set, if you have a situation where you say, if I do a really good job for you, would you be happy to refer me? I'm not asking you to do something. I'm not asking you to commit to something now, apart from if I do a good job, would you? So I'm not asking you to put your friend's name in the frame at this present moment in time. So you're more likely to say yes. That's an easier yes. Of course, if you do a great job for me, of course I'll be happy to refer you. Yeah. So now when I've done a good job and now I am comfortable with who you are and what you're all about, it's much easier for me now to say, when you come back to me and say, so can you think of anybody? And you go, well, yeah, probably 2 or 3. Give me a day or 2 to think about it. Or yeah, actually, Mary and Dave down the road, they're doing a loft conversion. Fantastic. Is there any chance you could just introduce me? Just let them know I've carried out the work for you if they're looking for an electrician. If they're not, no harm, no foul. Okay? So how you approach it is very, very important in terms of not moving in too fast, not asking for the referral too fast, but by the same token, being confident enough to ask for the referral. And of course, the other side of that is moving too slow on asking for a referral. And it is a balancing act. It's a judgment, because if you leave it until you've left the project and you've moved on and the customer has moved on, and it's days have passed, weeks have passed, months have passed, you know where I'm going here. This is the very same as with a testimonial. The further away the time goes, the harder it is to get the referral, because the customer has reduced the value in their mind. So immediately afterwards, or very shortly afterwards, the customer is going through a phase of elation. They're happy with everything. They're happy with you. They're happy with how it turned out. They're pleased with the what it cost. All of that. They're going through all of that as an emotion. There's a feeling associated with that, and that's a good time to pounce in the nicest possible way. Whereas as time goes by, that feeling dissipates. Life gets in the way. The customer moves on. They are quite happy with the project that you've done, whatever that might be, the kitchen or whatever, but they're forgetting the joy of that. How grateful they feel about that is starting to dissipate. So it's much harder then to get out of them a referral to somebody else that they know. So leaving it too long can be a bit of a mess up as well. So just be conscious and be aware of that. By the way, guys, if you do have any questions, please do make sure that you jump in and ask those questions. Just want to see if anybody else has jumped on and joined us. I can see a number of people have, but they haven't yet jumped in to say hello. So if you're sitting on the fence out there at the moment and you haven't yet jumped in and said good morning, I mean, if you don't say good morning to me, at least jump in and say happy birthday to Mark. Yeah, Mark Butterworth. But yeah, so moving too slowly can be a problem as well. Just realized that the banner is still scrolling there. Let me just shut that off for a second. There we go. A bit of a distraction. Okay, so the next thing that people tend to fail on as far as referrals are concerned as well is the whole art of following up on a referral. And remember, guys, you know, this is as relevant at you know, talking one-on-one with a customer as it is at a networking situation as well. You know, if you are getting referrals from people on at networking meetings, and I know that many of the networking groups these days are driven by referrals, which, you know, some cases a good thing, some cases a bad thing. But the likes of a BNI is driven by referrals. So you do network with the pure intention of getting referrals. But there are other networking organizations which don't drive home the referrals as much. So, for example, the FSB have networking meetings. Your local authority, your local council will have networking meetings, but they don't drive home the concept or the idea of getting referrals at these networking events. But the interesting thing is that's what a networking event is for. It's for you to go out there and get referrals from people. It's also to give referrals and to give people an opportunity as well. But the bottom line is that the strategy, whether you're dealing one-on-one with Mark and Mary, the customer, or whether you're dealing with people at a networking situation, these rules hold true as well. These mistakes that people make hold true in each situation. And the reason I raised that at this point in the presentation is that it's the whole follow-up thing. Because as many of you know, I was a BNI member for a number of years. Mr. Palmer, you need to click on the, good morning, by the way, but you need to click on the StreamYard link. Go and click on the link that either Gary has put into the box or just above the video, and then we'll be able to see your name in the frame here. Unfortunately, I can see it on the phone that you've showed up, but good morning to you. But you're not showing up here on the StreamYard software. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, that would be extremely helpful. So yeah, I was saying I was a member of BNI for a large number of years while I was running my electrical contracting business. And I was actually an ADA at BNI for a number of years as well. But one of the biggest things and one of the biggest complaints that organizations like BNI get is that people don't follow up with referrals. So somebody will give them a referral. And we all know these people who pass out these chits all day long at a BNI meeting. And then when they're given some opportunities, when they're given some of these chits, they don't follow up on it. And that is a huge loss of business. And this goes the same, like I said, whether it's a networking opportunity or whether you're dealing directly with a customer. If one of your customers gives you a referral, if they say to you that they know somebody who is interested in having whatever the work is, you know, you draw a line, XXX, whatever that is, and you say kitchen conversion, loft conversion, rewire, whatever. But when they come to you and say, this is what my friend Mary, John, Jane, Jack are doing, and I told them that you were the guy, then it's incumbent on you to follow up with that potential customer. Now, here's the thing. You will find people saying things to you. Oh, I've given them your phone number and told them to call you. That's great. Sometimes life gets in the way. So don't be so coy or afraid to say, okay, that's great, but now that you've recommended me, could I have their details as well? And that way then you can follow up with them. Now, remember, they have a building project to do, or they have a kitchen to get done, or they have a rewire to get sorted. Okay, whatever it is that they're doing, they will have other priorities in their mind. Their friend has recommended you. They're thinking to themselves, yeah, I'll give them a call at some point. Life gets in the way. The architect comes in, or the builder comes in, or the kitchen fitter comes in, or the bathroom fitter comes in, and he starts to do his work. or he comes in and he does his quote, because 9 times out of 10 these guys are all in front of you anyway, but he comes in to do his quote, or he comes in to do the work, and suddenly he's introducing his electrician. And now the customer has this dichotomy, this dilemma, that Dave and Mary down the road have introduced James, the electrician, but the builder is actually telling me that he uses an electrician. You know what? I haven't even spoken to James yet, so I'll go with the builder's electrician because, of course, he's my builder and he knows what he's doing and all of that. So you can lose out on a huge amount of work by just not following up on things. Do you understand? Give me some thumbs, hearts, and smiley faces if you see where we're coming from with this. When you sit back and you're waiting for somebody to contact you, you can lose out just because life gets in the way. And you haven't given yourself the opportunity to follow up on what could potentially have been a decent job, a good customer, a good fit with your ideal customer. Why are they likely to be like your ideal customer? Because they've been referred by a person who is your ideal customer. Okay, so you need to pull your finger out, and when the person says, I've introduced you to John, Mary, Jane, whatever it is, you need to say, can I have their details? And I'll give them a call. And then you follow up with them and you get involved and you get yourself into the mix, so that at least then when they're making a decision, if the builder does introduce his guy or the painter introduces his guy, whatever the case is, that somebody else is introduced into the mix, at least now you're in the frame. Not only are you in the frame, but they know who you are, but now they also have the association with their friend, colleague, family member, whatever as well. You're more likely to get that work. But the other thing again is that when these people become customers, not just about following up after the referral, but when people become your customers, it's also incumbent on you to keep a relationship with that customer. Now, we know, and this goes right back to the whole communication part of being a toolboxer as well. We know that within the toolbox, and we're doing this at the AWeber workshop as well, where we talk about constant follow-up, where we talk about constantly keeping in touch with our customer base, because you never know when they actually have the opportunity, when they get the opportunity to refer you, when they get the opportunity to pass your details on. And what your job is to keep your name on the tip of their tongue. And we do that in a number of different ways as far as being a toolboxer is concerned. One of them is the email marketing, is the constant follow-up sequence that we do to make sure that they don't forget who we are. But also from time to time, a phone call to see how they're doing, how the work that you did for them are doing, and if they know of anybody else who are potentially looking for a good electrician. Sending out the occasional letter, sending out the occasional newsletter, using things like thank you cards, running your own Facebook group, having a group that you put all of your customers into. In some cases, using a WhatsApp group. I prefer a Facebook group. Some people like a WhatsApp group, but a WhatsApp group or a Facebook group where you actually put your customers and you keep all of your customer relationships in a corralled environment where you can actually send them out information from time to time, where they remember who you are, where you keep them entertained, you keep them educated, you keep them informed. But keeping in touch, following up, making sure that, number one, you follow up on any referrals that you're given, but number two, you follow up with customers constantly so that they know that you exist and that you are still looking to be referred and you're still looking for work. In line with that, with the whole follow-up thing, is making sure that the message that you're sending out is getting across as well. We talk about niching as far as the toolboxer is concerned. We know that one of the first steps as far as being a toolboxer is specializing, and that is identifying what it is you do, who you do that for, and at what cost you do it, where you do it. Okay, so it's the who, what, where, and what cost. Those are the elements that make up the whole specialized part of being a toolboxer. And by the way, if you can't remember what that's all about, go back and watch the videos inside of the member area. But that helps you to define any kind of message that you put across to your customers. And it's important that your customers who are going to refer you know this about you. They chose you for a reason. but what is the reason you want to be chosen for? And if they don't understand that, there's every possibility that they're going to send the wrong people to you. There's every possibility that the wrong message gets out. You know, if you're not the guy to go and do fault finding, then the last thing you want is referrals and testimonials for fault finding. But if you are the guy who loves doing kitchen fit outs, who loves doing bathroom fit outs, if you're that guy, then you want your customers to know that that's the type of work you're looking for. If you're looking for people who are professionals who work in the city, then your customer needs to know these are the type of people you're looking for. If you're the type of person who's looking for other tradespeople to work with, builders, plumbers, glazers, whatever, then your customer needs to know that. So you need to make sure that you are on message with your customers so that they understand what it is you're looking for, the type of work you're looking for, the type of people you're looking to work for, you're looking to work with. They need to understand that you're not the cheapest. This is all about getting the right message out. If they have a friend who is looking for somebody to come and do a quick £20 job, they need to know that you're not the guy to refer to that, because what you don't want is a lot of useless referrals. Now, this goes, like I said, this carries right across from working with individuals to working at networking organizations, to, you're sat in your BNI meeting and you're telling people that I want lots and lots of referrals. That's great. But if they're sending you lots of £20 jobs, people who only want to spend 20 quid on a job, yeah, they're giving you lots of referrals, but they're not the right kind of referrals. And that may very well be because you're not on message. You're not communicating to them exactly what it is that you actually want. Okay, and the problem with that is if you do that, if you're not on message, then you're going to get misrepresented. If you're not getting across clearly what it is that you want from a customer, then your customers are going to just pass on the wrong information. And if they're passing on the wrong information, if they're giving the wrong information to other people, then the wrong expectations are being set. And if the wrong expectations are being set, you end up dealing with, or your VA or whoever's answering your phone, you end up dealing with people who don't understand what it is you do. They don't understand what the customers are that you are looking for. And you end up getting these £20 jobs. You end up getting people asking you to do stuff that is not necessarily within your skill set, or not necessarily the type of work that you actually want. So it's important that you make sure and you make it very, very clear to anybody who's referring you. We talk about this in the JV. If you go and watch the JV videos, the joint venture videos in the toolbox as well, we talk about outlining and actually having written documentation for the people that you joint venture with, which tells them clearly the type of people that you are looking for, the type of work that you are looking for, the things that they need to listen out for. So when they hear their friends saying, oh, I'm having a kitchen done, don't automatically think that all they need is a kitchen fitter. Because when somebody says to you they're having a kitchen done, you need to consider the electrical work. They need to consider, do they need a consumer unit upgrade? Are they going to be moving sockets? Are they going to be installing cookers and the like? So when somebody hears their friend, and this goes back again, so many different things linked. This goes back again to the reticular activating system. You could be sat talking to your friend, and if you're not in the trades, if you don't know or understand the trades, and you're sat talking to your friend, and they go loft conversion, well, what do you think? You start thinking about the amount of space they have. Yeah, you'll start thinking about, oh, so they're going to have a dormer, or they're going to have, skylights. You'll start thinking about things like the extra room they'll have. You may think that, oh, they need a builder for that, but you don't automatically think that they need an electrician. And you may know a really good electrician as a customer. You're not in the trades, but you know a really good electrician, but you don't think about it. And this is why making sure that you give the customer enough information that they are able to represent you properly, by feeding this information to them, by giving them listening points, by giving them things to listen out for. So when somebody says kitchen, they think, oh, yeah, well, James said if somebody's having a kitchen done, they might need a cooker fitted, they might need some sockets moved, they might even need a new fuse board. So I'll tell Jane, she's told me she's having a new kitchen done, so I'll tell her, has she considered the electrical work? Because what will happen is, as you guys know, what will happen is the builder will arrive on site, or the kitchen fitter will arrive on site, he'll have a look around, and then he'll have his electrician to introduce, or he'll tell them to go and find an electrician. Well, you've missed an opportunity. Same thing with the loft conversion. You know, your customer doesn't realize that because you're having a loft done, they may need an electrician. But if you've given them listening points, if you've said, listen out for this, when you hear them talking about this, these are the things that will trigger, and that's the reticular activating system. Because now, you know, Dave could have heard lots of his friends over the years talk about kitchens and gone, great, oh, lovely, you're having a good kitchen done. And he's never once thought electrician. But now when somebody mentioned it, because you've said it, now when somebody says, I'm having a kitchen fitted, oh, right, James said, and now his reticular activating system kicks in, and he can start talking about why you might need an electrician if you're having a kitchen done. I've just used two examples, like the loft and the kitchen there, but there's a huge amount of different examples that you could use. But the onus is on you to educate your customer so that they can refer you properly, or to educate the people in your networking meeting so that they can refer you properly. Guys, is any of this making sense? Let me see some thumbs, hearts, and smiley faces if this is making sense to you and you're getting some kind of value out of this this morning. I'm going to have a sip of my hot lemon this morning. Well, now lukewarm lemon, but hey. Yeah, excellent stuff. Okay, cool. So the next thing then is the failing to identify your ideal referral. And this goes back to exactly what we were talking about with ideal customer, because that is the bottom line. It is your ideal customer. But if you can't communicate that, or you don't communicate that to your existing customer, see, your existing customer doesn't know that they fall into a bracket with you called ideal customer. And when you want them referring you, you want them referring you to your ideal customer. Now, in some sense, particularly if we're going customer to customer, C to C, then it's likely that the person is going to fit with your ideal category. Why? Because people hang around in groups of people that they like. Yeah. And that means that many people share similar values, strengths, beliefs, and so on and so forth, which means that people who refer you to their friends normally refer you to people who are like them, which means that they are like your ideal customer. Hopefully that's making sense. Yeah. So 9 times out of 10, this is good, but you need to be very clear that you understand who your ideal customer is, because if you start getting the wrong kind of person, and then that wrong kind of person is referring you on to more of the wrong kind of person, then that can create issues down the road for your business. You end up in that trap where you're working for people who are not of value to you within your business. Morning, Mr. Raby. James Raby has joined. Good morning to you, sir. Jed Asprey's there as well. Just spotted, so good morning. I know you've been there for a little while, Jed, but I've just spotted the name come up. Excellent stuff. Morning, guys. So understanding who your ideal customer is, but communicating that ideal customer across to your referee, the person who's going to refer you, so that they are not referring you on to bad people. And again, very important in a networking situation as well, that people are not just walking through the door, giving you referrals, giving you chits of paper with a referral on it for the sake of a referral. And here's the thing with networking. Again, slight tangent. Here's the thing with networking, whether it's BNI or business over breakfast or anything. When somebody comes to a networking event and hands you a chit and it is the wrong kind of customer, you need to be able to stand up when you're doing your presentation and say, and it's not about calling somebody out, it's not about having a go at somebody who's giving you a referral, but it is about clarifying the type of work you want. You want value out of your networking meeting. Now, I know at the moment these networking meetings are all happening online, but the same thing holds true whether you are online or whether you're actually in a room with a referral. Now, let's say, for example, Dave, the air conditioning engineer, arrives in and he gives me a referral for Jane, and Jane wants a washing machine serviced, let's say, okay? And you accept that chit at your BNI meeting. Now, you don't know what, you just know Jane wants an electrician for something. You don't know what that is all about until you actually contact Jane. And when you contact Jane, Jane says, oh, it's I want a washing machine. So, well, I don't do washing machine. I'm not, washing machines are not what I service. Yeah, it's not what I do. Or he's given you a referral for Mark, and Mark lives in a tenanted building, and he wants some work done in the tenanted building, but you need the landlord's permission or something to that extent, right? Whatever the downside of it is, you need to be able to stand up at the next meeting and talk about that. You need to be able to hold up that testimony, or not testimony, that referral. You need to be able to hold up that referral and say, look, with all due respect, blah, 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 I got a referral from Dave the other day, last meeting, and it was for a washing machine service. I just need to make it very clear that that's not the type of referral I'm after. Because the last thing you want is to be getting referrals for people or for jobs that you do not do, for things that you are not interested in doing. Because if you do, if you allow that to happen, if you allow that to carry on, then you'll just keep getting the wrong type of referrals, and people will be looking for the wrong type of referrals for you. And this goes the same, like I said, for networking or for dealing with people one-on-one. When your customer gives you a referral, thank them for the referral. And if it was the right kind of referral, make a big issue out of it. Make sure that they know it was the right kind of referral. But when it's the wrong kind of referral, you need to be clear and you need to make sure it was the wrong type of referral as well. Because if you don't, you run the risk of them sending you more of the wrong type. And then you're back in that sequence where you've done a lot of work and a lot of effort put into building and describing and understanding who your ideal customer is, only for people who think they're doing the right thing, who have a good heart, who are trying to show you their appreciation, but in essence, they can screw up your business by sending you the wrong type of referrals, whether that's the type of work, the area that they're working in, or the people. They could be asking you to travel 50 miles and you say, look, I'd love to do it, be great, but you know what? It's just a little bit outside of where I cover. Or they might want you to go and work for Jane, who lives in a council building. You say, you know what? That's great, but not the type of work I'm looking for. So, or fitting the car alarm, sorry, that's an auto electrician. That's not the type of work I'm looking for. But you need to go back and explain that and talk to the person who referred that, whether it be customer to customer or whether it be at a networking meeting, so that they don't end up giving you or constantly giving you the wrong type of referrals. Hopefully that is making sense. Then, of course, the next thing is failing to differentiate. Making sure that when your customer is referring you, they know the upsides of referring you. Now, hopefully this is making sense. So not just to say that they found a great electrician, but what is it that makes you great? And that's not about how skillful you are, how many exams you've sat, how many qualifications you have. It's what is it that makes you different? What is it that makes you stand out? And you can do that with people that you're working with simply by asking them, what was it that they liked about, and this goes back to the reticular activating system again. Sometimes people don't think about it. They don't think about what was it that they really enjoyed about working with you? What was it that they found so good about what you did? What was it that made them feel right about you? So if you ask them, they now have an answer in their mind, so that when they're talking to other people, that's the answer that they refer to. Does this make sense? Think about that for a second. So if I say to my customer at the end of the job, at the end of a project. So, when working with us, what was the one thing that stood out? What was the one good thing about what we were doing? And they say something along the lines of, well, you know what? Your communication was fantastic. You told me every step of the way. Yeah. What was going on? Or it could be as simple as, well, I was concerned that you weren't going to tidy up, but every single day you left the place spotless. They now have a reference of a good reason why you stand apart from other electricians. So when they're talking to people that they're referring you to, this is the one thing, this is the thing that will stand out when they refer. It'll be like, yeah, you need to work with James because every step of the way he tells you what's going on. If anything's out of line, what's going on. He's fantastic at communicating. Or, you need to work with Mark because when he was in my house, I hardly even knew he was there. Every day when he left, floorboards were back down, carpets were clean. He was spotless. What is it that differentiates you from other tradesmen, from other electricians, that your customer can use to really drive home to the person that they're referring you to, that the referral that they're getting you? So yeah, you need to drive that, and you drive that by asking questions. Cool. Okay, we're getting towards the end here, guys. The other thing that people fail to do is they fail to plan. Now, if you go and watch the whole video series on word of mouth marketing, if you look at the training on word of mouth marketing that we did, you'll see that word of mouth is a strategy. It is not something, and this is what kills me when I see it in all of the other groups. People just go, oh, well, all I need is word of mouth. If you're good at what you do, people will recommend you. That's crap. You need to have a plan. You need to have a strategy to plan and to organize word of mouth. You need a follow-up sequence. You need to make sure that when you are working with somebody, who do you want to be referring you and who do you not want to be referring you? Again, ideal customer as opposed to not an ideal customer. What kind of work do you want to be referred for? How do you want those referrals to take place? What kind of written information do you want to leave with customers so that they can find it easy to refer you? How do you want referrals to contact you? So you need to plan all of this out and make it a strategy for what you actually do, rather than a, fingers crossed, hoping, wishing in the wind type of situation that, if I do a good enough job, they'll recommend me. That's not the way to look at it. And, a very simple strategy is that set expectation. Know that at the beginning of every major project, when you are talking to the customer, and this can be in writing and verbally, that you make it clear that, if I do a good job for you, I would hope that you would refer me. Would you be happy to refer me if I do a good job for you? Great. That's part of the plan. Next part of the plan. Have I given the customer enough information to refer me to the right people for the right kind of job? Next part of the plan. How do they contact me? Here's the details. This is how your potential referrals contact me. This is what I want you to do. Don't just give them my details. Give me their details. These are all sequences in a plan, and you will put your own plan together. And then what do you do once the customer calls you and says, I've referred you to Jane and John down the road, they're having a kitchen done? What do you do? What sequence do you put in action? Do you pick up the phone and call them? Do you send them an email? Do you text message them? What's the next stage in the plan for you? How do you get in front of them to do the quotes? So you need to formulate a plan for your referral marketing, for your word of mouth marketing as a strategy. Okay, guys, so I would recommend you go back and you look at the whole thing on ideal customer again, number one. I would recommend you go back and you look at the word of mouth marketing videos as well, and start putting into place a plan for referral marketing within your business. And if you're making any of the mistakes that we talked about this morning, then start to rectify them. Hopefully you did what I said at the beginning. You started with a pen and paper and you start writing down, I'm doing that, I'm doing that, I'm not doing that. And you now have a strategy moving forward.